so even though he was God with flesh on, he's coming in, he's doing his thing, he was heartbroken over Lazarus being gone. And he was heartbroken about what that effect had on other people. And we're in a culture and a society, and the reason I showed you this because, as we're at Halloween and everything, like, zombies and everything you see, like, that, like, doesn't make resurrection look really good, does it? Like, it doesn't make you really excited about resurrection, because you usually freak out about what's resurrected then. Like, you're just like, okay, if that's what, is coming, I'm not a fan of resurrection. But here's the deal, when God does it, when Jesus in the flesh does it, it's different, and it's legitimate. It's not made up, it's not this whole fantastical thing, it's something different. And so, one of the things that I think we learn, and I wanted to look at some different things we learn about Jesus, and I believe the three things that I was pulling out of this that I believe that we learn about Jesus is, number one, that Jesus is trustworthy. Jesus had this relationship with Lazarus. He had this relationship, and he's told them, if you read John 11, which is there's a whole big thing about John 11, there's like about 57 verses in there. And one of the thing that you read in this passage is that he says, I am the resurrection. I am the way, like, he's basically reminding them, I am a God that can do tremendous things. And they constantly forget, because I don't know about you, but I get really short-sighted when something really rough happens to me. Like when somebody passes away or something goes wrong, I get tunnel vision and I forget truthful things. You guys ever had that moment happen to you? You guys ever been there? Where you're just kind of like, you know what's true, but like all that goes out the window and you just start thinking and worrying about, oh my gosh, like the constant, whether this person you're having a problem with at school or this thing's going on at home or whatever the case may be, you get this tunnel vision and you don't look up and see hope. And so when we have this situation, we look at Jesus, and I think what we look at, every time Jesus says something, he follows up with it. He shows that he's trustworthy. And he tells them, listen, I'm the resurrection. And the reason, and you see that conversation that he has in front of everyone with God, and he's like, I'm glad that you listened to me. I'm doing this not because of my own benefit. I'm doing this so that other people will benefit by what's about to happen. And they'll be encouraged. And so he's trustworthy. Another thing we learn, I believe, is Jesus cares. He wouldn't weep over someone he didn't care about. Jesus really cared about this guy. He could have just been like, oh, sweet, just come back to life, do whatever. But he was this genuine mixture of God and man, which is cool, so crazy for us. He was 100% man, 100% God. So we're like, what does that even look like? So he's 200%? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're like, what? Doesn't make sense. But the thing is, if he really was just God, you would just think like, oh, well, he doesn't have emotion. He doesn't need to be mad or sad or whatever. He's God. He's self-fulfilling. He's all good. But when we look at this picture where he's just crying and weeping over Lazarus, even though he's about to do something for this guy, like imagine that, like he's about to make it right, but even he experiences that moment. He experiences the moment of just heartbreak of like, that guy is gone. My friend is gone. Even for that period of time. And then I believe the last thing that we learn about Jesus is that he's powerful. When you look at this passage, when you look at what's going on in this passage, people don't just do this anymore. We don't just see this happening. Like, where this guy, Lazarus, had been in there for how long?
4 days.
4 days. Listen, if you leave a dead body somewhere, now just in case you guys need to know, if you're leaving a dead body, leaving a dead body somewhere, 4 days is not a good smell. Okay? It kind of smelled like that gym, except worse. Okay? Like, the thing is, you take a step back, you realize that is a, awful decision. Like, you're thinking, Jesus, what are you doing? And that's the thing I think is pretty funny. This is the 11th chapter of John. So they've been hanging out with Jesus a long time. They've seen him do crazy stuff over and over again. And they would listen, they say, we're going to do it. But you can just imagine them being like, Jesus, I've seen you heal blind people. I've seen you make the lame walk. I've seen all these things happen. But Lazarus is dead. And I mean really dead. I mean he's been dead for 4 days dead. It's not like he's like a fresh death and he just died. There was a moment where Jesus saw this little child being walked out of the village and they're mourning over that child. That was a more recent death. So you're thinking, well, is there an expiration date on the resurrection power? Is there an expiration date on the power of God? And there is not. And so God is like, listen, I'm going to do this. Not not even for the benefit of Lazarus. You know, here's the deal. Lazarus knew God. He knew Jesus. So coming back to earth is kind of a bummer. So think about that. Like, for Lazarus, it's kind of like, woo, man, whoa, wait a minute, why am I going back? This is awesome. But he's going back, and so it's not for the benefit of Lazarus. It's for the benefit of those that were there and us. The resurrection that happened in Lazarus' life is so that people believe. And one of the things I love that chapter, it says that after this thing happened, several people believed it. They just started, oh my gosh, yeah, we're in. We're going to follow you, God. We believe that you are the resurrection and you are the life. And so I think that there's so many of us in this room, guys, that we doubt the power of God. We doubt it. We think, God, I read the Bible, I see all the stuff that you do. I was just reading today in the Psalms, and I was just overwhelmed by what the voice and the breath of God can do. Like, just think about that. If you read the scriptures, the breath of God creates universes. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, just think about that. Like, he goes, universes, planets, stars, everything. When we breathe, we're just like, sweet, we're alive. Awesome, right? Or like, gotta check my breath, right? That didn't smell very good. Like, I just had onions or something. You know, like, but with God, he's like, boom, all this given resistance. He breathes into the dirt. Just and creates us. Isn't that crazy? Like, his breath is so powerful, and we doubt the power of God to help us navigate even minute situations that in his eyes are just nothing. Because guys, if God's breath can do that, what do you think that if God put his hand on a situation can do? If God has lent his spirit into us, you realize, like, we have the Spirit of God inside us. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you have the Spirit of God inside of you, which means you have this resurrection power inside of you. You have the ability to speak life into people. How many of you guys have had a moment where someone really spoke something really nice to you in a day and it just really cheered you up? You guys ever had that? Like, someone just came up to you and they were just like, your hair looks awesome, and you're like, I needed to hear that. Like, you know, maybe you just have a really bad day, and you have somebody to speak life into you. If you're a follower of Jesus, you have that power. You have resurrection power inside of your bones that you can speak into other people and be a blessing to. And so, before we dive into our small groups and go, I have some questions for you, some things I want you to think about when we're thinking about these things, as we look at them. You know, first of all, I think this is a really important question, because I think many of us know the Sunday school answer to it, but we don't really believe it. Do you really believe that God can do impossible things? Because raising dead people is impossible. It's impossible. Like, scientifically, you know, looking at the biological makeup of who we are, people don't die and come back to life. They don't. Like, when you're dead, you're dead. But God did yet another impossible thing in this moment. And he took someone that was dead for 4 days, brought him back to life. Like I said, not for the benefit of Lazarus, but for the benefit of the people around him. And several people came into faith and knowledge and understanding of who Jesus was. And sometimes, like, how many of you guys have things in your life that need to die and stay dead? You got some things in your life that need to die. That was a strange response, but I'm with you. Because, like, here's the thing. I know for me, there are things in my life that are ugly. There are things in my life that need to go away. And I heard this really good, you know, I've been talking about it a lot because I've been a fan of just listening to, you know, sermons and stuff. And this guy, Matt Chandler, is one of my favorite preachers, and he is awesome at the Village Church. And he said this thing. He was talking about this story of, like, a lion. And he asked the question, like, how many of you guys like the show when animals attack? Have you ever seen that show? Ever heard of that show? Basically, it's a show about when animals attack human beings for human beings being stupid. Normally, that's what happens. Like, he's just like, he's talking about, I'm always cheering for the animal. Because the human's an idiot. Like, they're the ones doing it. So, like, here's what happened, okay? In this one episode, of when animals attack. They're bringing out a lion on a chain and a leash thing. Like they're bringing it out, right? And then they have this girl lay across the lion. Right? And then she gets attacked and bit. And everyone's getting interviewed. And they're like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that lion, that he bit us. Literally, a lion thinks about killing or is killing something at all times. That is what a lion does. So, here's what we do. There's some of us in this room that would rather keep the lion alive and figure out how we can do this thing. We'd be like, you know what, I'm just gonna tame the lion. I'm gonna make sure, it doesn't do that again. I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do a different trick. Instead of doing what needs to be done, and take that lion out back and shoot it in the head and be done with it. Because here's the deal, guys. There are things in your life that need to die. But you're not willing to let them go. You like them too much, even though they destroy you. There are things in your life that are destroying you right now that you like so much that even though you know it is eroding at the soul and the core of who you are, you still want it, and you still want to figure out how I can have that exist along with a relationship with Jesus. And so you need to ask yourself, are there things in your life that just need to die or stay dead if they've already been gone from your life? I know there's things that God set me free from that I don't want to see ever come back, that need to be gone. And then the last thing is this thing about resurrection. What in your life needs to be brought back from the dead? What in your life? Maybe you have this moment. I know that there's some of you in this room that had a period of your life where you felt really close to God. You guys ever had that moment? I had this sweet spot. Maybe it was a camp experience. Maybe it was a fall retreat. Something like that. Different things that were going on. Maybe you had those experiences. But some of us just get back in the lull of everything that's going on in our life. We just kind of go along. But God is saying, what in your life needs to be brought back to life? Because He can breathe and universes come out. And He can breathe and He can resurrect things that need to be right back where they need to be. You just got to invite Him into that process. And so, I just encourage you, maybe one of those questions hits you, maybe none of them do. I just encourage you,